Hello, welcome to the Thursday Night Book Club with Pamela Ayo Yetunde. I am William Fley, one of the producers here at the Mindfulness Network for People of Color, and I'm so excited to finally have Ayo Yetunde visit our channel. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be watching this later on. So, for those of you who do not know Pamela Ayo Yetunde, she is the co-editor of a book called Black and Buddhist, which is an incredible book. So, if you haven't read this book, um, I highly suggest you do. There's so much information on this, and you don't have to be Black or Buddhist to read this. Everyone really can gain from this wonderful piece of work. And your latest book is Casting Indra's Net. And there it is, Casting Indra's Net, Fostering Spiritual Kinship and Community. So you've done so many things in your life, pastoral counselor, human rights activist. Um, uh, you're working within Lions Roar editing. Um, where I'm just wondering what happens next with your work and everything that you're doing. It seems to be really well focused in a particular direction. So what happens next?
Well, I'm not completely sure, but I will answer your question as best as I can. First of all, William, I want to thank you for reaching out to me. I think it's been years now that you reached out to me, and we have formed a relationship of which I am very grateful. So thank you for inviting me to be a part of your community mindfulness network for people of color. And I also appreciate the technology that allows us to uh, reach across continents so that we can be together and discuss the things that are important to us. Also, Walkiria, thank you for being here. And for all the people who might be viewing this recording, I appreciate you and thank you for your presence. Your first question to me is what's next? I chuckle about that because there's no telling with me what might be next. I am moved by what I feel I can respond to. And I happen to be on I don't know, creative streak is what I'm calling it. A fierce creative streak. Part of the fierceness has to do with me being 61. I'll be 62, God willing. I'll be 62 this year and feel like and know that time is of the essence. And I want to do what I think I need to do. And knowing that depends on me listening very carefully. What am I hearing? What am I perceiving? What do I feel strongly about? What are the ways I feel I can contribute to problem solving? But I also like to have fun too. So Walkiria and I were talking about our writing, and Walkiria's writing fiction. I've engaged in some fiction for the first time in my life. I didn't know how much fun it can be to create characters and put them in situations. But what I tell people is whatever it is that we're creating, especially mindfulness practitioners, Buddhist practitioners, what have you, spiritual people, whatever it is we are creating, can we create it with a sense of wanting it to be a benefit to others, for the well-being of others. So I'm engaging in some of that right now. And I am a pastoral counselor. I'm still doing that. That is part of my work. That comes from having trained as a chaplain in mindfulness-based training programs such as Zen Hospice Project, the Sati Center for Buddhist Studies. Then I also went to a Catholic university to get a master's degree in culture and spirituality. And then my last degree, pastoral counseling, was from a Presbyterian seminary. So all of these things have informed my writing, in particular my writing Casting Indra's Net. So that's why you invited me to be here. And then I'll talk a little more about fiction later. Or now, if you prefer.
Yeah, please do. I mean, I had to meditate a bit before starting on here because I was so excited of having you on here. I mean, So I'm almost speechless, which is kind of hard to do. So so please, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. All right. Well, let me begin by saying more about casting interest net. And I'm excited too. I'll take a few breaths. Okay, maybe just one long one, but it's okay to be excited. Um, so I don't know from your social location what you've been observing, but from my social location in the United States, as an African descended person who's also a member of the LGBT community, what I have seen over the past several years is a going backwards, if you will, going backwards, an intentional uh, re return to a way of life and thinking in the United States that honors uh, male bodied people, white bodied people, and is attempting to recenter those bodied people at the expense of everybody else in the world. And this is happening also through hurtful rhetoric, lying, violence. And it's the violence, I think, more than anything, that has gotten me thinking about what can we do, those of us who love wisdom, those of us who love wisdom and love people, what can we offer in this cultural mix of lying, especially the gaslighting, um, to attract people to the beauty of wisdom with the hope that they can better understand what they are being invited to, the authoritarianism, the fascism that they are being invited into, and say, I don't want a part of that. We have come so far in this country to learn how to coexist. I do not want to go back. So casting interest net is just my infinitesimal offer while I'm alive to say, look, let's not forget, we have wisdom traditions that are centuries old that are still available to us. We can dwell in it, we can be informed by it, we can be inspired by it, and it can help us connect one to the other where we live and where we don't live so that we can create societies and a future that our young people can look forward to. So that's what casting interest net is about. And you asked me specifically to read a portion of the book, right? So I'll do that now, and maybe that will invite some conversation. So this comes from chapter 1, called The Suffering of Mobbery. As I write these words in 2022, there's been a deep stirring in human life over the past several years. This deep stirring is of an existential nature. For example, our environment has become more deadly, and it seems as if we are collectively unwilling or unable to change it. Some call this global warming, others call it climate change, others say there is no change, and still others say these changes are predestined by God to end the evils of human existence, like in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. In any case, we know landscapes have been altered by heat and storms, property has been destroyed, lives and livestock have been lost, and farms throughout the world have been parched. Changes to the climate and to the viability of regional lifeways are causing people to trek hundreds of miles by foot to enter other countries for food and water without going through legal immigration channels. And such migrations are expected to grow enormously in coming decades. In some countries, there's been a rise in authoritarianism, even in countries once celebrated as remarkable beacons of democracy. Consequently, fellow citizens are turning against one another, desiring more bloody fingers, and I'll talk about that in a moment, desiring more bloody fingers on their garland. When this antagonistic turning against starts being enacted not just by one person or small fringe groups, but by huge swaths of people, something quite dangerous is happening. I'm coining the term mobbery to describe this phenomenon. And then I'll just end with this one sentence. Mobbery is a process that centers on anger, energy, and power. It is the aggregation of personal anger into a collective anger that develops a power far beyond that of individuals. So what I'm talking about when I made the reference to bloody fingers on their garland, what I'm doing is referencing some stories from Buddhism. The bloody fingers comes from the story of Angulimala, who had a necklace of fingers that he cut off from people he killed and was seeking that one last finger from the Buddha. And the garland represents the way that we can have flowers and we can have bloody fingers. And throughout our lives, we are exchanging these bloody fingers, these garlands, depending on how we are engaging in spiritual practice or how we are engaging in violence. And so this mobbery, what I've seen in the United States, I don't know about where you are, but in the States, it is more of a, oh, so this is how I get what I want. It's not okay for me to not have what I want. So back in the olden days, when we were growing up, our parents taught us that you don't always get what you want. Right? I need to teach you in ways you don't want to learn, but I need to teach you how to abide with not getting what you want. Because out in the world, they're not going to care who you are or what you want. So you need to be able to be good within yourself and be able to be good with not getting what you want. Fast forward, what we see is many examples of people getting what they want when they want it by collectively coalescing their power and imposing that power onto others. And that's where we are right now. That's mobbery. Any thoughts about what I've said? Any concerns or questions?
So many thoughts, and the way you capture, what's happening to the planet and what, this culture of individualism and extraction. I want this and I'm going to get that. And how that is not only destroying the planet, it's destroying, the essence of what it is to be truly human.
Yeah, sad.
Yeah, because at the core, I believe humans are wonderful beings. If you see a child, is full of love, doesn't know color, doesn't have greed. And but we are indoctrinating even the children into a system that is killing souls and the planet. So I could really, really resonate with those words, and definitely going to get the book. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks you, Walkiria. Thank you, Ayo, as well. My so much went through me when you were reading that, and I guess the first is my internal response of shaking and anxiousness as to how long do these divisions and the impact long term of the divisions, because they're quite contagious. And so a lot of us are seeing what's happening to the US. You described it as going backwards. We had so many law reversals in the last few months that were like unimaginable, and they continue to evolve in that direction. What we thought what we thought was impossible to conceive behavior of leaders um, and values broken. So a lot of that just goes through my head, kind of thinking, is my spiritual practice enough to keep me grounded and sane? Is my faith strong enough to outlast, these circumstances which feel almost unprecedented? And I guess I could hear the biblical connotation to them of ending the evil in the human the catastrophes. But it's interesting, isn't it? Are we seeing another wave of like you said, Sodom and Gomorrah, but there's examples of flood, and there's a lot of examples in human history, isn't it, where catastrophes have, in a sense, started again.
Right.
Yeah.
The difference here is those old stories in scripture, those are not human-made disasters, right? What we're facing now are disasters at our own making. And I'm pretty sure most of us know this now. Our leaders know it, and are beholden. Many of them are beholden to corporate interests who say, well, if you pass this legislation, or if your country joins this treaty, then you can rest assured you will not be reelected. And few are courageous enough to say, I don't need to be reelected. What I need to do is stand up for the future. And for whatever, whatever people think about former Vice President of the United States, Al Gore, we need more Al Gores.
We need more Al Gores, definitely. Yes, it's the same here, because I don't know if you've heard about Extinction Rebellion.
Yes, I have.
And I'm part of Extinction Rebellion. Have you heard Just Stop Oil?
I don't think I have.
Just Stop Oil is an offshoot of Extinction Rebellion. They're more extreme. They're either very young or they are grandparents. And what they do, they sort of, they do kind of disruptive actions that's only focusing on Shell, British Petroleum, and all the massive companies, because the fate, the fate of the planet, it is in the hands of about 70 corporations. So they are targeting this corporation. These poor kids and these poor old people are being put in jail. I offer free counseling for a lot of these people in circles, climate cafes, but they are risking their lives. They are going to prison for these actions against Shell, and they're doing all they can to crash the movement and to stop oil, stop the actions and so on.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
So that is really tough here. Protesting here is becoming really difficult, and we're losing people because people are scared.
Yes. And because of these things, and thank you for attending to the pain and suffering of people who are trying to do good for us, we need to collaborate across our differences. We need more people in the movement. We need less individuals sacrificing themselves.
Yes. And there is a willingness from Extinction Rebellion, Stop Oil, to talk to the CEOs of these companies, to talk with the corporate folk, and we want to talk to them. As you said, let's open the discussion. But no, absolutely, they will not entertain any conversations with us. They call us eco-terrorists because that's a really powerful name to brainwashing the average person in the streets to, side with them and not us. But, I'm really proud of what Just Stop Oil is doing. And Extinction.
I'm wondering, can you tell us a little bit more about, where did this name come from, casting Indra's net? Because it gives me this beautiful impression of this golden net collecting all this fish, from the river. Just the imagery is beautiful. So where did this name come from?
Thank you.
Because I'm trying to find the hope in our collective humanity.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, you, William, mentioned collective humanity. If you believe in such a thing, that there's a collective humanity, and if listeners believe that, then I would just invite people to just rest mindfully in that concept. if we rest mindfully in that concept of collective humanity, then perhaps it can produce a feeling of ease that we are not alone, that we have the capacity for collaboration, that there's something about being a human being that is creative, that can identify the problems that need to be solved and that we can solve them. That's what humanity is. Humanity also includes the ability to be aware, to be insightful, empathetic, compassionate, and loving, as well as violent, ignorant, destructive, and so on. So we have all these capacities. And within Indra's net, the way I'm using it in this book, within Indra's net, each one of us has the capacity to reflect the goodness of another. We have the capacity, and we may need help to find it, but to find that basic goodness in ourselves, to feel it within ourselves, and also to inspire people to do the same thing and reflect their goodness back to them. So one of the things I talk about in Indra's net, and you talked about fish, William, which then to me reminds me of Jesus, the story of Jesus asking commanding his disciples to use the net that they had, a little, net that they have, when they were most concerned about whether they would have enough food for themselves and others. And Jesus says, cast your net to the right of the boat. Stop worrying about it, y'all. I put that part in there. You're not going to find that part in the Bible. Stop worrying about it, y'all. Cast the net. And then they bring up more fish than the net should have been able to hold, right? Which to me is like, oh yeah, I love these stories. I love these parables, these koans, some of these things that I talk about in the book. What does that mean? What can that mean for us if we were to trust that on the other side of our scarcity mentality, there is this abundance that we have not even tapped into yet? Just try it. And so, William, to your question about hopefulness, my answer to you is, or my invitation to all of us is, to remind ourselves that we are limited in our ways of perceiving. Each one of us is limited in our ways of perceiving. And also we have the knowledge that we don't know everything. And because we don't know everything, we can then be curious. This is also part of humanity. We can be curious to find out what else is there. What else is beyond my normal ways of perceiving? And can I be open-minded and open-hearted, open-armed enough to receive it, to cast my net? Yeah.
It's beautiful. And so the net
Very
is like a
profound.
metaphor, isn't it? Because when we're open to that which we don't understand beyond our perception, then we can gain more in that journey.
Yes, our consciousness, our own consciousness can be altered. And I think that's what we need, because our old ways, I talk about in the book, our old ways, some of these old rules, like the golden rule, treating people as you want to be treated, that's old. Being spiritual friends to one another, that's old. The new challenges require something really deeper from us. And one of the things I think is needed is we need to, and this is a radical notion for some people, we need to go beyond mere friendship to adopting one another. So I use my examples and experience of adoption. My mother was adopted. My daughter, we adopted her. That we can adopt each other as kinfolk. And if we don't, then we'll run the risk of having old forms of relating that don't address the new existential threats.
I like the concept of adopting, because once you adopt someone, that someone is family.
Exactly. Exactly. And that doesn't mean it's not problematic. Some people say, oh, well, families. Do you have an idealist? No, I don't have an idealistic view of family. My family is complicated. All families are complicated because all individuals are complicated. But to have that kind of fierce commitment to one another, I think we need to go in that direction. Also, I'm suggesting that we need to go beyond the golden rule. It is not enough for us to treat people as we want to be treated. That presumes a lot of things, like the way I want to be treated is the way to treat everyone. No.
I like how you turn this concept on its head, and it's so true.
Right? No.
It's individualistic, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's about me and the way I want to be treated, and my concept of what being treated well means. It is narrow. I get it. Yeah.
And it goes to that, that part of us being desirous. Like, when I want something, I want people to give it to me. If I can't get it myself, I want people to get it. So other people also have desires. If I treat them the way I want to be treated, that means I'm going to give them what they want. And that is not always the best thing for them, nor is it always the best thing for us. So I'm suggesting in this book that we be really curious about what a person needs, and remove our self-template from overlaying that on other people to find out what they really need, and see if we can provide for them what they really need, which would support their ultimate well-being. Ultimate well-being, not necessarily immediate wants.
It's a very person-centered concept, whereby we are trained to get out of the way of the client, get out of the way of the patient, allow the patient to come in their, universal weakness, their whatever's going on with them, in their uniqueness, and be there with them and getting ourselves out of the way. Hard, but it's hard.
Right. But you know what is also hard when we think about it? It's like, okay, there are a lot of things that are hard. It's also hard watching our waterways dry up. That's hard, right? Yeah. It's also hard when you have to leave your country for safety. That's hard, right?
That's more than hard. That is devastating.
Right. So there are a lot of hard things that have to be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where we are.
Can I go back to this phrase you coined called Marbury? Because from where we're standing, there seems to be the US seems to be such a divided place right now. And so this thing around Marbury, we are seeing it a lot, aren't we? Around the world. I guess we're seeing it in places like Russia, but it seems so intense in the US. It just why is it that
here's what I
intensity.
This is complicated, so that means it's complicated and I have limited perception. So I don't know the answer to all of the causes and conditions that have led to our shift in culture right now. But I can say this. When Barack Obama was running for president, this is the first time that a serious campaign was led by a person of African descent in the United States. And I mean serious, like when he spoke at the Democratic National Convention, when he was an Illinois, state of Illinois senator. After that speech about we are the United States, I called about 5 or 6 of my friends from different walks of life. And I asked them, I said, did you see that? Did you see that? And they said, yes. I said, he's going to be the next president. Yes, he's going to be the next president. People knew. I mean, do you remember? He was a international rage. Okay, but speaking of rage, on the flip side of the definition, Donald Trump was enraged. He was enraged. He began. Donald Trump was, people in New York mostly knew him because he was a real estate mogul. but then he began to be like a gadfly, if you will, calling into question where Barack Obama was born. I mean, nobody in the United States with the name Barack Obama should be the president of the United States. No one who looks like him should be president of the United States. No one who looks like his wife and his children should occupy the White House. So we had the birther conspiracy, the Muslim conspiracy, and a lot of the stuff just got whipped up. Okay, so I would say this began with racism. The uptick in the divisiveness that you're talking about, William, I think began with racism against the Obama campaign, against the Democrats. And the Democratic Party also became villainized in a way that it had not been before. So then it's just gotten worse and worse since then. The division, there have always been divisions since settlers came to the United States. And some would say even before then, there may have been nations that were opposed against each other. But the divisiveness that you're talking about now is so dangerous, maybe culminating in the attack on Congress, so this is historic divisiveness, right? And the party of the president at the time not holding the president accountable for his behavior. If the parties are not holding their elected officials accountable, right, then we have a problem. We have a serious problem. So that's my take, William, on why we are where we are. One of the reasons.
Yeah, and that's a lot for Americans, and we're seeing that from the outside and witnessing that. And so what keeps you together in everything that you do? Is it your spiritual practice? Because I mean, you say you were 61, 62, you said soon?
I'm to be 62.
And so like something's keeping you well. Something's keeping you awake. Something's keeping you alive and being of service, despite of all of this going on around you.
Right. What is that?
Welcome, Tanya. Can you turn your camera on, Tanya, if you can, please? Thank you. Yeah. So, what's keeping you well? What is it? What was that? What was that you learned in your spiritual practice throughout all not only your training, but from your ancestors and from your family? What was it?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really good question, and one that no one has ever posed to me. I don't believe anyone has ever posed this question to me. So I will begin by saying that I became health conscious when I was young, very young, 6, 7, 8 years old, something like that. My father used to smoke, was a chain smoker. And so then this was the late 1960s. I don't know if everyone was, no, I'm going to say this, and there's no way that I could have known at this age anyway. I don't think that we knew how poisonous nicotine was, but I could just see how unhealthy it was. Then my father died when I was 8 years old. He was 35, cardiac arrest. I attributed smoking to that. And so recognizing that, I thought, I want to be a health conscious person. So, okay, there's a note from Tanya. All right. Tanya, I hope you make it home safe and sound. And thank you for joining us. And thank you for the heart.
Something beyond, like I'm seeing this with there's something beyond here, isn't it? Just that example of being health conscious that's holding us.
Well, you have to keep it up. Yeah, you have to keep it up. You can't just be aware that you want to be healthier. You actually have to work towards it. Yeah. So I kind of became I don't know, you want to call it a health nut. I grew up in the 70s. So there were a lot of things going on in the 70s around what you do with your body. But now at 61, you know, I'm still exercising. I meditate every morning. I try to eat right, even though I eat wrong many times. And I try not to be overexposed to toxic rhetoric and consuming violence as a form of entertainment. I think that's one of the most toxic, consciousness altering things we can do, which is to consume more violence than is already in society, and feel like, wow, that was fun watching that person get their head blown off, or wow, I'm so glad I paid to see that character get raped. You know, this is what we consume on a regular basis in the United States. And thank goodness for Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings, that I thought, you know, that's when I was first introduced to the concept. You do not have to consume toxins.
I'm aware my battery is going low and we're going to be cut off. So I'm just wondering if we can wrap up.
Yes.
I'd love to spend more time with you. But I just wanted to hear from Wakiria. Any final thoughts?
I'm just completely full of gratefulness to Ayo for being here. I can't wait to read the book. It really resonated with me, and the constant, you know, fight that we have, you know, to get ourselves heard about the climate. And I think the biggest thing I got from you, Ayo, is the importance of committing to my holistic well-being, body, mind, emotions, spirit, and also stopping the noise, you know, and being overwhelmed with political events and where we are as a race, and ask for guidance and focus on what I can do. If it's basically saving a tree, that's what I can do. If it's basically fighting for, you know, a small pension fund here in my little town to disinvest, that's what we're doing. That's what we're going to do. We do what we can, when we can, where we can, and not get so overwhelmed. So that I really got this from this session, because I was overwhelmed because I'm doing these petitions for the Amazon forest, and I'm thinking, what's the point? Come fight Citibank, JP Morgan, Shell, BP. But no, this has really gave me an inner belief that let all this happen. You know, as you said, you know, collective humanity might solve this if we all do a little bit. So I feel really grateful, because from this session I feel much more grounded and personally empowered to focus on what I can do. Be it writing my little books or holding a placard in front of the council, whatever that is, I know my limitations, and that's what I can do within my limitations, and it's okay.
Yes.
And also joy, have fun. This is important.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you,
so
Akira.
I'm so grateful. It's Indras, casting Indras net and Black and Buddhist. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I wish you well on your path, in your writing of fiction, creating brilliant characters.
So much fun.
And having fun with it.
Thank you for the work that you do, Ayo, for your practice. And I'll probably be on my third reading of this book soon. You know, and we hope that you continue to write and to share your wisdom and the love that you have for truth seeking.
Thank you. Do you have time in your battery for one story?
Yes,
yeah, I hope the battery lasts.
well, you know, if his battery goes, I'll stay.
Let me be real quick.
You are the Zoomer. Okay, go on.
Real quick. I saw in the news very recently that someone in the United States who was arrested for participating in the coup attempt is suing Fox News because Fox News was responsible for the mindset that led him to believe that the election was rigged. And so I find a lot of encouragement in this, because here's this person who was duped saying, I need to hold somebody responsible. I need to hold the news reporters accountable for the libelous and slanderous so-called news that they are putting out there. This man, though he was arrested and will probably be found guilty, is saying we should be better than this. We should be telling the truth. And I was not told the truth.
That's
So
a good
whatever we
story.
do, wherever we are, what little piece of work we do, let it be honest.
Yes.
Let it be true.
That is a lovely story. I like that. I'm gonna Google that in a minute. That is good.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so
We
much. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Pamela. We
William.
hope
Okay.
you come back soon.
Bless you.
For another discussion sometime, and hopefully we'll see you at the end of the year at the empowerment retreat. Do try to attend one of the sessions.
I have to learn more about it, and I will. All right.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Let me. Okay.